Chapter 16. Dan. At the moment Dan was in the line to tell his story, but nobody wants to listen. With his many speeches, they know what happened to him. That was what they believe, but it was only the half-truth. He never could keep his mouth closed, but he was nevertheless entertaining and sometimes also funny. Dan wasn't every time such a big mouth. Before the apocalypse starts, he was a very quiet guy with a fiancée. He confesses the group that he is very afraid, and that was the reason why he can't stop talking. It was his method to overplay his fear and to stun it. If he weren't an adult man, he would shit in his shorts every time, was his next confession to the rest of the group on the fire. That he still cut zombies in pieces on the ground after the good martial arts training of the vampires was a result of his great fear about the undead. Anya asked him why he joined the group with such a fear. His answer was also clear and understandable. Because I want every day something to eat, and it was much secure in a group than alone. In the meantime, the rest of the group come to the fire to get more information about Dan. At first they want to avoid his speech. They had enough from his talking, but now they hear things they didn't know about him. For example, they didn't know about his great fear. Now they understand him better than before and were now interested on his story. For them he was only a big mouth who overplay his skills and can't keep his speech. Now they saw him in a total different light. Everyone in the group knows his fear as well and feels sometimes the same. There are nobody who was afraid to become eaten by these disgusting stinkers. The fear of transformation into such a creature was the tiniest sorrow of all. After Dan gets the sympathy of the whole group, he continues his story. He tells us not really much. His life before the invasion couldn't be better. He loved his fiancée with his full heart and she loved him too. He had a very good paid job as a computer specialist and starts to produce children, the dream of the most men. Then comes the horror. All over, the corpses get out of their graves. Dan and his fiancée lock up themselves in their own apartment with barriers. After a few weeks they eat the last food. They have to leave the apartment to get more. Together armed with a hammer and a big knife they sneak to avoid a contact with the zombies. In the closest supermarket they get hardly food. Other people break in and take a lot, but they let back enough for the beloved. They fill up their rucksacks and return as fast as they could back to the apartment. Without an incident they come back. Dan's fiancée feel not well and lie down on the couch after they ordered the whole stuff into the cupboard. She wants to avoid infecting her husband. He had to sleep alone in the bedroom. He didn't know to this point that she gets bitten into the foot from a zombie on the ground in the supermarket. She was afraid to transform into these creatures, but she didn't could tell her husband. She loved him so much that she keeps the silence in hope that the situation gets better. She can't risk to get damned from her beloved. After she was sure that Dan slept, she pushed a commode in front of the bedroom door to protect her husband in the worst case. She couldn't be sure that the situation changed. In the middle of the night she died and come few minutes back as a monster of the new world. Quiet she sneaks up and down in the apartment. She tried to get into the bedroom, but the commode stopped her very well. Although a small children was smart enough to climb over the commode, to push the door handle down and to get in to the sleeping Dan. She wasn't able to do the easiest things. And so she hikes the whole night in the apartment till the sun rises. A short time outside increases the light, then wake up by a huge bang in the apartment. At once he was clear and was concerned about his fiancée. He stands up to look after her. As he wants to leave the bedroom and open the door, he wondered about the commode. He didn't know what happened and he called the name of his wife. The only noises he gets was an animal-like sound out of the kitchen, but no answer. As fast as he can, he climbed over the commode and walked to the kitchen. On the floor he saw his dead fiancée. She tried to move forward with her broken arms, but she wasn't very good at it. As a zombie, she hit down the fruit glass bowl from the kitchen table. The ground was very smooth, and she slide and fall down. In the smash she breaks her hip and arms, and also cut off her Achillessean. Without an intact hip, she wasn't able to move on two legs. After Dan realized that his beloved fiancée was a creature of the dead, he wants to follow her to be together. He tried to get bitten, but he was too afraid about the pain he have to feel. Slowly he stretched up his hand in the direction of his dead fiancée. In the moment he was only a few centimeters far from her, she began to attack like a wild beast. Sounds like an animal, and he take in shock his hand at once back. He lost totally his idea to be together with this creature. He didn't want to lose the finger and was afraid about the pain he have to feel. And so he wants to end this in another way. He goes down in the cellar and takes his old hockey pad and his ice skating shoes. As next he bonds shave blades on the bed and wear the skating shoes. After he was prepared, he walk into the kitchen and hack under tears the head from his fiancée. After a few cuts, she lost her head. He was so emotional down that he goes into the living room, sits down on the couch and cried. After he was stable again, he goes back in the kitchen to finish the piece cutting of his lost bride. To cut the arms and legs, he began to jump with his ice skating shoes on the joints of the shaking body. With gloves on his hands, he takes the body parts into a washing box and smashed the rest of his lost beloved into the trash can in the garage. Normally he wants to say a few words of sorrow, but he was so stressed that he didn't do it. What should he say to a collection of shaking body parts? And so he goes back into the apartment without a comment. He was so tired that he fell in sleep at once after he lies down on the bed. After 5 hours he wake up, get up and packed all he thought he need and leave the place of sadness in his car. 4 days later his supplies ends and he have to search again for other food. On a poster he saw the message of the vampires and that they look for volunteer to kick zombie asses. That was the way he gets the information from the group. He won't die alone or hunger to death, and so he becomes a member of the group. Now he was an emotional wreck, but he have companions and maybe after a long time he can forget his past and what he lost. That was also the reason he talks so much, to kill his pain and to get rid of what he lose. The rest was known, and so he closed his story. Nobody of the others could say anything after Dan finished his story. They had much to think about. Everybody had a personal reason to hate the zombies. Now they know that they never be so brave like Dan. All have the fear to get eaten, but nobody have to get used to such great fears like Dan. But he still continue, come over his fears as good as he can, and that all only for a little bit food and the security of each other. With this story Dan turns from big mouth to a hero. If he can control his panic, we other could it too. There was nobody who think about to leave the group, hide behind walls and fences instead of risking their lives to be killed by zombies. That horror in mind had really everyone in the group.